मैं अनम्यूट कर रहा हूँ। Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Osama, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, guys, for this delay. Okay. Uh, my name is Amakal, and uh, I'm, I started my career in IT almost 5 to 6 years ago in 2016, and then I switched my career in Salesforce, and it's about now 5 plus years I'm working in Salesforce, and currently I'm working in Tech HQS, and so that's it. So today we are going to discuss the governor limits uh, in Salesforce, and so let me share my screen. Okay, so okay, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. It's visible.
Okay, so let me open my presentation. Okay, so first of all, the introduction. Uh, which screen can you see? The presentation one
Yes, the
or
presentation and the
okay,
introduction slide.
okay, okay. Okay.
Uh,
So, okay, first of all, introduction. I have an experience in Salesforce of 5 plus years, and I worked in different roles. I started my career in Salesforce as a simple Salesforce developer, and then I worked as a system administrator. Then I moved to the solution architect. Then I moved to the simple consultant, and now I'm currently working as a consultant plus technical project manager in current company named Tech HQS. So that's the whole my journey in Salesforce. So uh, and uh, and today we are going to present the governor limits in Salesforce, that how the Salesforce enforce the governor limits in Salesforce and why. So that's the main purpose of this session. So let's move forward. Okay, so we are going to cover following steps in this session. First of all, what is Salesforce? Then the Salesforce architecture, then move to the why governor limits, and then the types of governor limits. Then what is the governor limits that the Salesforce is enforcing, and then ideal ways to avoid the governor limits. So so we are not going into the depth that how can we avoid the governor limits. So we are just discussing that how can we avoid the governor limits in Salesforce during the implementation or development or anything you are doing. So, what is Salesforce? Salesforce is basically a simple customer relationship. It's Salesforce actually built in 1999. It's basically a US-based company. And then, with the passage of time, Salesforce transformed into SaaS and PaaS, software as a service and platform as a service. So, actually the main purpose of this Salesforce is the customer relationship management. So and it also provides a different, what you can say, different features, that how you can manage your data, and then third party integrations, then customer segmentations management, customer management, customer support, xyz, different type of services that Salesforce is currently providing. So okay. So what about the Salesforce architecture? If we talk about the Salesforce architecture is basically a multi-tenant. So it, as it is clear from the name, multi-tenant means multiple resourcing are using a simple, a simple one platform. So this is the whole main architecture of Salesforce. And if we talk about the Salesforce architecture layers, then there are the three main architectures: application, platform, and the Salesforce. Salesforce means the backend architecture, by backend layer. In the application layer, you can say all of your pre-built applications like sales, services, marketing, community, XYZ, all of the apps, and plus your custom apps are all of those apps are placed in that layer. And in the platform layer, your main Einstein Salesforce logic, there you can say framework, Lightning framework is placed in this platform layer. And if we go further in the database layer or Salesforce layer, there is a, where they are managing all of their database, like data management platform, data management rules, all of these things are implementing in that layer. So this is the whole simple logic behind the Salesforce architecture. So if we go move to next slide, okay, why governor limits? This is the main question in the today's session. Why the Salesforce is implementing the governor limits in the Salesforce org. So as we discussed, Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture. So we can say in a simple language, we can say there is a single instance of software that is installed on the server, and all of the users are using that software. So this is the main simple language. So due to this nature of multi-tenancy, and that the Salesforce is sharing its resources with all of the users. So to ensure that all of the users are using their resources perfectly, and no other user is monopolizing the shared resources, so Salesforce is implementing the governor limits to make sure everything is working fine for every user. No other user overcome the other resources or XYZ. This happens like if we talk about the in Salesforce language, the Salesforce resources like memory, database, CPU, processor, bandwidth, these are the Salesforce resources that is which the Salesforce is providing to the users. So to make ensure that these resources are every user is utilizing their resources perfectly, they are enforcing the governor limits. So as you guys mostly visit the trailhead, so this is the genetic picture that the Salesforce present on the trailhead, is that if you are living in a building and I don't know how many are the floors. I think 9, 10. Oh, okay, 10 floors. Okay, there are 10 floors, and you are living on the ninth floor, and you are using the resources of that building like water, light, building maintenance, XYZ. So, what will the building manager will do? Building manager will make ensure that your resources, your resources don't other users don't overcome your resources. So this is the simple, and this is the whole logic behind the Salesforce architecture, and why the governor limits are implementing. This is the whole big picture of Salesforce architecture. So if we go move to the next slide, okay, types of different types of governor limits. If we talk about the different types of governor limits, the first one is the pre-transaction apex limit. The second one is lightning platform apex limit, static apex limit, size specific apex limit, email limits, miscellaneous apex limits, push notification apex limits, yeah, notification limits. So there are two different types of push notification. One is the Salesforce push notifications, and the other one is the mobile and Android. Sorry, iOS and Android. Mobile and Android. Sorry, my mistake. iOS and Android push notifications. So let's move forward to those governor limits. Okay, the first one is the pre-transaction apex limit. This means uh, per transaction apex limit, like if you are performing a process in a Salesforce, and then the collection of action that carried out sequentially in one process is one transaction per transaction. So this is the limitation related to that. So if we talk about the SOQL queries, and the second one is that this per transaction apex limit is divided into synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous means that sequentially steps of execution of the process, and asynchronous means that parallel execution of the different process. So these limits are divided into two parts. So if we talk about the SOQL query, SOQL means that we query in a coding language, structured object query language. So if we talk about the SOQL queries, then in synchronous, 100 is the limit, and in the asynchronous, 200 is the total limit. So how many of the records we can retrieve in that SOQL? It's 50,000 each in synchronous and asynchronous. Sorry. So if we talk about the bad jobs, then we use that normally we use the database.get query locator. So for the bad jobs, most of you guys understand the different terms of the Salesforce, like bad jobs and other things. So bad jobs is basically a jobs which are written for the large data, for the large collection of data. So for the bad jobs, we use the database.query locator, and in synchronous, sorry, 10,000, and asynchronous 10,000. So 10,000 for each. So if we talk about the social queries, social is basically you can say, text-based search in the Salesforce. So there are two types of queries in the Salesforce, social and social. So social is basically a record-based searching, and the social is basically text-based searching in the whole Salesforce. So if we talk about the social, then synchronous, asynchronous is 20 each limitation issued per transaction. Okay. Okay, then we move to the social retrieval records. If we talk about how many of the records we can retrieve in social, is 2000 per transaction. So all of these limitations are per transaction. So just for the reminder. Okay, so how many of the DMLs statements are issued per transaction is 150. So total number of records processed as a result of DML statements, how many of the records we can process? 10,000 each. So total stack depth. Okay, what is this? Total stack depth is the process that, let's say you are updating a record, and on the updating of the record, a trigger is firing, and the trigger is starting another process. So this is every process is considered as a new you can say invocation of the process. So total depth that Salesforce allows per transaction is 16 of stack. So okay, total number of callouts, how many of the callouts per transaction we can do is 100 for each in synchronous and asynchronous. And if we talk about the call out timeouts, that how much of the time after time that the call out will cancel is 120 seconds for synchronous and asynchronous both. And if we talk about the annotation methods, what are the annotation methods? You can say future methods is basically a separate pipeline methods that worked independently of other processes is 50 in synchronous, and 0 in asynchronous. So this is the limitation. Maximum number of Apex jobs, that let's say, you are implementing a multiple Apex jobs for the processing of the records. So how many of the Apex jobs you can queue per transaction is 10, oh sorry, 50 in synchronous and 1 for asynchronous. Okay, so okay, send email is basically a simple method in a Salesforce, standard method which we use to send the emails. So how many of those methods per transaction are allowed is 10. 10 times we can call the method. Okay, total heap size in synchronous is 6 MB and asynchronous is 12 MB. So just for another information, the total heap size that Salesforce issued is 36 MB basically. But because of the synchronous and asynchronous procedures, they divided the size into 6 MB and 12 MB. Okay, so maximum CPU time that the Salesforce allowed in synchronous is 10,000 millisecond, and asynchronous is 60,000 milliseconds. So for per transaction execution time is 10 minutes and 10 minutes each. So next is the push notification. So if we talk about the push notification, these are not the notification of the mobile. These push notifications actually in the Salesforce. So per transaction push notifications is 10 for each, and push notification that we can send through method, that let's say you are calling a push notification in in a separate method. So how many of the methods you can call is 2000. So this is the per transactions apex limits. So let's move to the next one, is the lightning platform apex limit. Lightning platform apex limits are those limits that are enforced across the Salesforce platform, Salesforce org, through the lightning platform. These are the limitations that are implementing from the lightning platforms, not per transaction or not XYZ. Actually, these are limitations implementing through say Lightning platforms. So if we talk about the first one is the asynchronous, how many of the asynchronous methods we can call is 250,000 per org. But it depends on the licenses. If you change your license, then on the license you can these numbers can also update it. So if we talk about the synchronous transactions, that these are those synchronous transactions whose time is greater than the 5 second, is simple at 10. Maximum number of apex class, how can we apex class schedule it concurrently, is 10, and in developer editions its limit is 5. So how many of the bad jobs we can call that are on holding status is 100, and how many of the bad jobs that we can call that are in active situation, active status, is 5. Similarly, how many the bad jobs we can call through the start method is 1, and how many of the bad jobs that we can submit during the test class. Let's say you are developing a XYZ module, and you have a class, and for the unit testing of that class, you are writing a test. So for the unit testing of that class, you are writing a test class. So and you are calling a call out in that class. So to test that call out, you have to write a test scenario for that call out in the test class. So that's the basically limit that we are talking about here. So how many of bad jobs we can call out, we can submit during the test classes is 5. Maximum number of test classes that we can queue in 24-hour period. These are the production org, and this difference between production and sandbox and developer edition basically. So if we talk about the production org, it's 500, or so Salesforce says that 10 multiplied by the number of the test classes in the org. Let's say you have the 20 classes, test classes. So multiply that 20 with the 10, then that the number you can queue per 24 hour, means per one day. So if we talk about the sandbox and developer edition, it's 20. Other one either is 500 or 20. So multiply that 20 with the total number of test classes. Then that's the number you can put. Okay. So this is the limitations that are implementing from the Lightning platform. So if we talk about the static Apex limits, so these are the limitations that are applied across all the transactions, as I write on the top of the heading, sorry, bottom of the tag heading, that apex limits that are applied across all transactions. So as we most of the points are similar to the first per transaction limitation. So first one is default amount of call out in the transaction is 10 second. Maximum size of call out request and response both are 6 MB of synchronous apex or 12 MB for asynchronous. So okay, so maximum socle queries runtime before Salesforce cancel the transactions. So this is basically you can say you are calling a socle query and socle and before the canceling of the whole procedure, how many of the socle queries you can call is sorry time it's time. So how much of the time that is required you can call socle queries before the transaction is cancelled is 120 seconds. So number of classes and triggers code units you can deploy in single Apex or you can say org is 7500. Apex trigger batch size, how much of the size would be it's 200. In for loop list, okay, this is simple. For loop list batch size, most of you guys familiar with this thing. Whenever you start your career in the Salesforce, you have to face this type of thing. How to process the records in the loop. So this is 200. So okay, so maximum number of records that turn for the batch apex query in database.query locator is 50 million. So that's it. This is the static apex limits. And okay, the size specific. So if we talk about the how much of the characters are that allowed in single class, yeah, or how much of the characters that allowed in a trigger, or so this is the limitation related to that. So per class character limit is 1 million, and per trigger character limit is 1 million. So how much of the code you can implement in single org is six, sorry, in single class, not all. So my mistake again. 6 MB. So method size limit, so if you are writing a class and you are implementing a specific functionality related method in the class, so how many that what will be the size of that method is in a compiled form, you can say 65,535 byte code. So if you convert into MBs, then you will get the value on that, how much of the MB you can you require for that. So 65,535 byte code instructions per in compiled form. So okay, so this is the size specific apex limit. So if we move to the email limits, so this is across all the licenses in the Salesforce. Across all the licenses, 5,000 external emails are allowed in a single org. You can say, yeah, okay, yeah, in a single org. So okay, if we talk about the push notification limits, it's both for iOS and Android. So if we talk about the iOS push notifications, 20,000 is the limit. 20,000 push notifications you can send in iOS, and for Android is the 10,000 is the push notification limit. So okay, so, how can we avoid these governor limits in in a in a Salesforce? That what are those? technical points you have to implement during your development or during your working in the Salesforce. So let's discuss about that. So single trigger for every object. Must make sure that if you are implementing a trigger based logic, then you have to per object implement a single trigger. Don't create multiple triggers. Don't create multiple trigger and their classes. And it will get mess. It will get mess up. So you have to write a single trigger for every object. So put all of your logics in that trigger. Let's say you have to update your record on XY condition, then put that in the in that trigger. And if you want to delete event, and then put that in a same trigger. And write trigger logic in your Apex class. This is very important. Um, I in my career, I see a lot of developers that are writing their code in a trigger. They are handling all of their functionality in a trigger class. This is very bad. I think this is very bad approach to implement your logic. You have to handle all of your conditions in that trigger. And in conditions, if you want to implement the big logics or simple logic, you have to create a trigger helper class, you can say. I'm just giving an example. Write a trigger helper class and put all your logics in that class, and call that class in the trigger class. So this is the best way to handle your all of your trigger related functionalities. So context specific handler methods. This is basically a simple same thing that I discussed in the previous point, that and that context specific handler methods should be implemented in the triggers. So use collections and a limit in for loops in code. Uh, Okay, sorry. Sorry, I got the message on the mobile phone, so that's why. Okay, use collection and limit in for loop in your code. Okay, if you want to, implement your for loops, then you have to write the collections, or you have put the limit. If you are retrieving working on a large data sets, then you have to put the limit. Otherwise, your loop will break, and Salesforce will give an exception on that this cannot be processed XYZ. So this is the best example for the startups. If you are starting your career in Salesforce, the first condition you will face related to the exception is the for loop exception. So that's the thing. So SQL query for loops for large data sets. So basically, what in this point, if you are like say, mm, for the large data sets to operate, you have to use the loops for that to operate more. Why I put that point in here? Because I see a lot of developers what they are doing. If they want to update a specific record, they call the indexed. They call that record through the index and update that record. This is very bad approach. You have to iterate all of the records in loop and update that record, and then do whatever you want. So these are the major points that you have to follow in your good Apex practices in Salesforce. So that's all from my side, and thank you guys for for attending this session. And over to you.
Thank you, Sama, for your insightful presentation, and we really appreciate your expertise and the information you have shared with us. So, thank you so much.
Thank,
Uh,
thank you.
yeah. So now I will open the floor for the questions. So if you have any
Mhm.
question or from the audience, so please ask or write in the chat box in the general or Q&A section so that we can answer them. And let's continue the conversation.
Um, so
We will have 5 to 10 minutes for the question answers. Then we will end this session. Okay.
um, any question from you guys?
I
I
don't
think
think
I
anyone
present.
have any questions.
Uh, I think I present. I present
You
very
explained it
well.
very well. I
Exactly.
think.
There's no questions. Okay, no problem.
Let's wait for 2 or 3 minutes. Then we'll end this session. So I don't think there's any question from anyone. So
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for joining us on the weekend. I know it's not that easy. So and do
Mhm.
RSVP for the upcoming events. And there are more upcoming events in person event or the online events on my group and on the Karachi admin group. So you can do RSVP as
Okay.
well on the admin group. And then I would say uh, if you have any question or if you have any topic that you would like us to cover in the next topic, please message me on WhatsApp or LinkedIn and share your ideas with me. So we will cover all those topics or the points in our next sessions, and we are looking forward to it. Please share your feedback and thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.